Today we are studying about our environment, Class 10 Chapter 15 Ncert. Our first topic is environment. Environment means what surrounds us. It includes living things, non-living things, and the physical, chemical, and other natural forces. Everything included in this environment. Next topic is ecosystem. In our environment, all the living organisms such as plants, animals, microorganisms, they keep an interaction between the physical surroundings and they maintain a balance between them. So all the interacting organism in an area together with the physical surroundings makes an ecosystem. Ecosystem consists of biotic and abiotic components. Biotic means all the living organisms and abiotic is the non-living things like temperature, wind, rainfall, soil like that. Two types of ecosystems are there, natural one and man-made one. Natural means it's naturally occurring like forest, pond, lake, and man-made is it's made up of man, example garden, crop field, etc. The manner in which the organism obtain their sustenance from the environment, they are grouped as producers, consumers, and decomposers. First category is producers, all the green plants and certain bacteria which can produce their own food by photosynthesis. These are come under this category of producers. The second category is consumers. These are the organisms. They are depends on the producers either directly or indirectly for their sustenance, which consume the food produced by the producers either directly from the producers or indirectly by feeding other consumers. These are called the consumers and they are classified into herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and parasites. The last category is decomposers. These are the microorganisms comprising of bacteria, fungi. They break down the dead remains and waste products of organisms. These are come under this category of decomposers. Consumers are classified into four categories. From these, herbivores are the animals whose primary food source is plant based. For example, deer, cricket, caterpillar, etc. The carnivores are the animals that eat other animals. These are tiger, lion. The omnivores are the animals that eat both plant and animal derived foods. For example, human beings and pigs. The parasites are the organism that lives in or on the organism of other species and benefit by deriving nutrients at the other's expense. For example, lice and mosquitoes. Next topic is food chains and verbs. Food chain shows who eats whom in the nature. From this figure, we can see that the producers, that's a grass is eaten by the grasshopper. The grasshopper is a primary consumer. Then it is eaten by mice, that's a secondary consumer. Then mice is eaten by the snake, that's a tertiary consumers. After that, the final consumer. Then this final consumer is decomposed by the decomposers. So this is simply a food chain. And the organism taking part at various biotic level forms a food chain. Different biotic levels are there. In all the biotic levels, there should be a food chain. Otherwise, they cannot exist. Okay, at each level of the food chain forms a trophic level. When we represent this food chain in a triangular model, at the bottom level there is autotrophs or the producers, and above that different kinds of consumers. These autotrophs they fix up the solar energy and make it available for the consumers. The herbivores or the primary consumers come at the second trophic level, and the small carnivores or the secondary consumers they are at the third trophic level, and the larger carnivores or the tertiary consumers they form the fourth trophic level. In this figure, we represent the different types of trophic levels and the consumers and producers. Before we discussed about the interactions of biotic and abiotic things in the environment, the interaction involves the flow of energy from one component of the system to another. The autotrophs or the producers capture the energy present in the sunlight and they convert it into chemical energy mainly through the process of photosynthesis. This energy supports all the activities of the living world. From autotrophs, this energy goes to the heterotrophs and the decomposers. When one form of energy is changed to another one, some energy is lost to the environment, mainly in the form of heat, which cannot be used again. The green plants in the terrestrial ecosystem capture about only 1% of the energy of the sunlight that falls on the leaves and convert it into a chemical and that's a food energy. When green plants are eaten by primary consumers, most of the energy is lost in the form of heat, and the remaining energy is utilized for their digestion, for their daily purpose, and growth and reproduction. An average of 10% of the food eaten is turned into its own body and made available for the next level of consumers. And that means when we consider the tropic level, that's at the bottom level, there is producers are there, and the tropic level increases, only 10 percentage of the energy is moved from one tropic level to next tropic level. Remaining 90 percentage energy is utilized for their daily purpose and lost by heat. Only 10%. That's a minimum amount. 10 percentage is transfer from one tropic level to next one. 10 percentage can be taken as the average value for the amount of organic matter that is present at each step and reaches the next level of consumers. That means a little energy is available for the next level of consumers. The loss of energy at each step is so great that very little usable energy remains after four tropic levels. Only a little energy is the apex level, only a little energy will reach there, and after that also only little energy will be there. There are generally a greater number of organisms at the lower tropic level. That means the producers. Producers are the highest number. Next topic is food web. Before we studied about food chains, in food chains, each organism is generally eaten by one kind of organisms. That's why it's a linear type. But in real cases, it's not like that. In each organism is generally eaten by two or more other kind of organisms, which in turn are eaten by several other organisms. So instead of a straight line food chain, the relationship can be shown as a series of branching lines, as shown in this figure. This is like a web. That's one organism is eaten by other two or three kinds of organisms, and in turn, it also eaten by other kind of organisms. That's simply a food web. Our next topic is flow of energy in an ecosystem. Firstly, the flow of energy is unidirectional. From this figure, we can see that producers got the solar energy from the sun. Its direction is unidirectional one. From the producers, it won't revert back to sun. Likewise, from the producers to primary consumers and primary consumers to the secondary consumers, it's unidirectional one. It won't revert back to the previous level. That's energy captured by the autotrophs does not revert back to the solar input, and the energy which passes to the other level of consumers does not revert back to the previous levels. Secondly, the energy available at each tropic level gets diminished progressively due to the loss of energy in the form of heat. Our next topic is biological magnification. From the food chain, some harmful chemicals enter our bodies. It is by the use of several pesticides and other chemicals to protect our crops from diseases and pests. These chemicals are either washed down into the soil or into the water bodies. From the soil, these are absorbed by the plants along with the water and minerals, and from the water bodies, these are taken by the aquatic plants and animals. This is one of the ways in which they enter the food chain. As these chemicals are not degradable, these get accumulated progressively at each tropic level. As a human beings occupy the top level in the food chain, the maximum concentration of these chemicals get accumulated in our bodies. This phenomenon is known as biological magnification. Our next topic is ozone layer depletion. Ozone, that's O3, it's a molecule formed by three atoms of oxygen. Ozone is a deadly poison when it comes to contact with the Earth's surface. However, at the higher levels of atmosphere, ozone performs an essential function that it shields the surface of the Earth from ultraviolet radiation. This ultraviolet is harmful for organisms and it causes skin cancer in human beings. Ozone at a higher levels of atmosphere is a product of UV radiation acting on oxygen molecules. From this equation, we can see that the oxygen is combining with the UV and split this oxygen molecule into two free oxygen atoms. And after that, this free oxygen atom combined with the oxygen molecule, it forms the O3, ozone. The amount of ozone in the atmosphere began to drop because of the synthetic chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, which are used as refrigerants. That means the cooling agent. It is used in air conditioners and refrigerators, and as well as these chemicals are used in fire extinguishers also. The United Nations Environment Program sets some regulations on these CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. Our last topic is managing the garbage. Waste can be classified into two categories, biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Biodegradable means it can be decomposed by biological process. That's a microorganism can decompose these waste materials. And the second category, that's the non-biodegradable waste. It cannot be decomposed by biological process and it will damage the ecosystem. Most of the inorganic waste are non-biodegradable. From this figure, we can see that biodegradable waste, that's paper, vegetables, and kitchen waste, all are under the biodegradable one. And the non-biodegradable means the plastic materials, metals, and batteries, etc.